Hey everybody, welcome to Bruin Dash, the UCLA football show on Dash Sports TV. My name is Sam Connon. I'm one of your hosts. I'm joined once again by Jack Perez. Jack, how's it going?
Oh, it's great, Sam. Not as hot today, so I'm not sweating as much. Hopefully it doesn't show up on camera. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So we're a week away from FCS football, but the Bruins won't be out there until January. So we got a lot of time to talk UCLA football, what we got for the season ahead and beyond. We're starting right off the bat with the running game. Joshua Kelly, he's gone. He had 22 games the last few years, with 25 touchdowns and over 2,500 yards. A lot of production to replace, and there's a lot of candidates who can try to fill his shoes. So, Jack, who do you think is the favorite to replace Joshua Kelly?
I mean, the favorite has got to be Demetric Felton. This dude has shown out, especially as a receiving back. He was a wide receiver early on in his Bruin career, transitioned to more running back, especially on third down when Kelly really isn't the receiver that he should be. He had a big game against Washington State with almost 300 all-purpose yards. The dude is a beast. He is so quick. I think, especially if Chip Kelly really wants to integrate DTR more into the running game too, having a speedy back like Felton with him would do wonders.
Yeah, I mean, Demetric Felton, there's a reason he is one of the premier NFL draft candidates on UCLA football moving forward. He's really talented, really fast, but I don't think he's the heir apparent for Joshua Kelly's spot in the backfield. The two of them worked well together last year, but we saw in the first couple of games when Kelly was injured that Felton really isn't an every down back. In that Cincinnati game that he had an amazing game to start off week one last year, he wasn't doing his best running between the tackles. He only his big play was a receiving touchdown and a kickoff return for a touchdown. That's the guy he's going to be moving forward. I don't think you can rely on him to be a 20 carry a game kind of guy like Joshua Kelly was.
Yeah, I mean, if only there was a way for Chip Kelly to adapt his playbook to his personnel. But I don't know. Maybe if you have a receiving back and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's a good athlete back there, you can adjust so you don't have to have a 20, 30 guy back there the entire game.
Yeah, I mean, Felton will be getting a lot of snaps, but like you said, he'll be as a receiver and a running back, receiving back primarily. I think the guy to go to between the tackles, more of an every down back, I think is going to be Bruin Dash. He's a transfer from Duke. He didn't really have a lot of stats the last few years, but 2017, his freshman year, he had over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's as a freshman, as an ACC program. He's over 6 feet tall, over 200 pounds. He's definitely the kind of big body who can just push through the middle. He's definitely got the body style for it. His injuries have limited in the last 2 years. It's understandable. But if he comes into UCLA healthy, then I think he can be the guy who can maybe get double-digit touchdowns and 800, 900 yards.
Oh, okay. This is all relying on how long the season is too, but I don't think if we're going to be playing a spring season that Chip Kelly can rely on a transfer, especially a dude that might not have as much time to learn the playbook, develop chemistry with DTR. Why not go with guys that are already here? Why not stick with the Felton? Or how about this? You have one of the speediest guys in the country, Kashmir Allen. Start playing him and Felton together. Please, Chip Kelly, play Kashmir Allen more.
Well, yeah. Kaz is super fast. He's really dynamic. Same with Felton. But if you're trying to make those guys your every down backs, and if you're shoving a square peg into a round hole, it's not really what you want to do. You could adapt and have a more receiving back friendly offense, but that's a big change for 1 year. You're going to need a reliable ball carrier who can just kind of put his head down, break some tackles, push for 3 or 4 yards, get those third and short goal line scenarios down. And I think Britton Brown can be that. When Martell Irby, he's also a power back that hasn't proven much recently. And then Demetric Felton and Kaz Allen are smaller guys, lighter, receiving back, speed guys. So the most important role in the backfield this year is that every down back position that Kelly is vacating. And I think Britton Brown is the favorite to take that role. Doesn't mean Felton's going to have a bad year. He's going to get fewer snaps. But you can't really make Felton into Joshua Kelly. We saw that in the Cincinnati game last year.
No, exactly. Don't make Felton into Josh Kelly. I completely agree with that. Instead, change your playbook to match your strengths. Get DTR into these short, quick passes. Get him to these short, quick running backs that can break tackles. These dudes don't have to be your 200, 225-pound guys that can break through the line and just shove every single guy off them, a la Marshawn Lynch. Get some speedy guys out there. Chip Kelly's known from his Oregon days for innovating the offense, especially the spread offense. Start running the spread offense a little bit more, please.
The thing is, I don't think this is the year to change your offense. Like you said, maybe a shortened schedule, so you don't improve that. You didn't have spring ball last year. There's barely any summer workouts. There's not going to be a fall season. And you get to spring, maybe you play 8 games. You can't install a whole new offense in 1 year. You're going to have to go with what you've had for the last few years. It's kind of unavoidable. You would like to say, oh, let's have a much better offense by totally redoing it. But you can't do that, especially this year when you don't have players on the field and you can't just totally revamp and retool your offense on the fly with no contact with these players.
No way. Chip Kelly has nothing to lose in my eyes. 2 straight losing seasons. You've won 7 games. Try something different. I don't care, especially if we're only going to play a 9-game, 10-game conference schedule. And in the spring, only the Big Ten's playing there with us if everything works. Who knows if that's going to happen. Go all out. Innovate. I think he's going to be fired this year anyways if he has a losing record. So why not go big or go home?
The thing is, I don't think it's a boom or bust by changing up the offense and going more spread oriented, because I think it's a bust or bust if you do that, because the ceiling is not high when you can't reinstall an offense over an entire offseason. You don't have a full offseason. You already lost spring ball, not going to have summer. It's not like you're installing this new spread offense with receiving backs and speed backs and saying, oh, it could go really well or it could blow up in your face. Chances are, it's going to blow up in your face. In best case scenario, you're not really improved from last year anyway. So I don't see the point in totally overhauling the offense when you have a guy like Britton Brown who can come in and hopefully fill that Joshua Kelly role, just kind of be a stopgap guy, rack up some stats and carries, and hopefully just bridge you to next year. And then maybe next year you can do it. Maybe next year is the year you can get Kaz on to
an entire offensive
plan. Not now.
Why do you think changing up an entire offensive plan is unfeasible, but you can work it around this one dude that you think is just a plug and play for Joshua Kelly? Someone in the chat said, why not put Kaz Allen in the slot and create mismatches? I mean, maybe he's still more of a running back. His hands are okay. It's not perfect. It's a little bit of a risk coming in there. I would rather put Felton there and put Kaz in the backfield personally. But Kazmir Allen has to play more this year if Chip Kelly wants to run an amazing offense. Have you seen this dude in track, Sam? He is amazing. He came out just in his senior year of high school to run and won the 100-meter dash in California for the entire state. This dude is ridiculously quick. Please, Chip Kelly, you've coached ridiculously quick guys before. Coach this dude.
He is an important part of the offense. He's a slot guy. Felton was small to be a slot guy to begin with. When you look at the first couple of years he was with the program.
Yeah.
But Kaz Allen's even smaller. He's an inch shorter and 20 pounds lighter. So I don't know if Kaz can be that guy out of the slot. Him doing wheel routes, that's really great. He had a touchdown against Arizona a couple of years ago, his freshman year. That looked really nice. You're using him in the backfield in a flat, a check down. He can make guys miss. I think that would be great. He's done that in the past. And I think it's just quantity for him. Get him more touches, and he'll use that speed really well moving forward.
I really don't understand Chip Kelly's insistence on playing these big, burly backs when all they do is just slow down his offense. Dude, go all out, please. Do something. Make us excited. Bring some fans back into the stadiums if fans are allowed. But bring people to their TVs. Make them want to watch UCLA football for once.
I don't know. I think people wanted to watch UCLA football when Joshua Kelly put up almost 300 yards on USC. That was pretty entertaining, and he's one of those big guys who just shoved it up the middle. I think that's what you need moving forward.
Well, people are going to watch
on to the next topic. There's a few transfers coming in for UCLA. We were talking about Burton Brown already. But this year, more than ever, it's things aren't really certain for these transfers. Their eligibility, their roles on the team, considering they didn't have spring ball. So, Jack, I don't know. Do you think that not having a fall season and pushing it to the spring emphasizes the need for these transfers?
I think these transfers will probably be important out there for this year. Past this year, we might have to see a complete cutoff of transfers into this program, which I know is a bold statement, really a hot take, but let me explain. If guys are going to begin an extra year of eligibility no matter what, according to the NCAA this year, all of a sudden you're going to have a backlog for these next few years. If guys aren't going pro, which not a lot of UCLA guys are probably going to go pro, if they don't want to graduate, they want to stay in next year, and they have the ability to do that, a lot of guys are going to stay. We're going to have a backlog of players. I don't really think that we should rely on transfers after this season. We've had past really good transfers. We've had Josh Kelly here, but I don't really see it past this season. This might be the last good transfer class for the next decade for the Bruins.
See, but I don't think that really matters. You look at freshmen. Are you just going to recruit fewer high school players because you have more guys who are eligible? We don't know who's going to use that eligibility. We don't know who's going to graduate. There could be guys who have the extra year, said, no, I got my 4 years, got my degree, I'm not playing anyways. There are guys, you always go more talent, and especially this year. You have Evanston Njoku, who's a big tight end from Miami, really talented, freak athlete, and got a perfect body for that position. And you got Bruin Brown, who's also physical. He's an older guy from a Power 5 program who can step in and contribute right away. You don't want to just stick with what you have for the next 10 years. You always have to be looking for talent, whether that's coming out of high school, or it's a junior or senior, or it's a transfer. It could be a guy who's never played. It could be a guy from an FCS school or a JUCO. You have a lot of JUCO guys at UCLA. But transfers, OBE is probably UCLA's number 2 corner if they play this spring. He's a grad transfer from Stanford, and he could be really shut down. He had an off year last year, but he's the kind of guy who could step in and just contribute right away, and you're always going to have that option with transfers.
I'm just saying, we discussed last week the implications that the 2021 recruiting class might have on the program. I think with all of those guys coming in, we've got a lot of really talented prospects. And I don't want to be hiding them behind transfers. Transfers are good. Transfers are great. But if Chip Kelly really wants to build a program, he needs to try to elevate the players that he's bringing in, that he's going out to recruit personally. You can't just rely on getting guys from other schools. So what if, especially if everything happens and guys are getting more eligibility, they're thinking maybe I'll sit it out for 1 more year. I'll try to make it here for 1 more year. They're not going to be transferring as much. We can't really rely on that. We have 12, 13 guys now for this 2021 class, and it's still almost a year out. I mean, we could add a few more. Why would we need a bunch of transfers from that, especially if we're going to have a lot of holdouts?
Because transfers are talented. Ideally, the transfers you're targeting would be talented, and they're also experienced. You don't want to be playing your freshmen from day one. That is not a recipe for success. We saw 2 years ago, you have Wilton Spade as a grad transfer quarterback, but other than him, you had a really, really young team, one of the youngest teams in the country, and it didn't go very well. And you saw the team had to develop through the course of the year. Veteran teams play better than young teams, all things considered. Look at Joe Burrow. He's a transfer. Justin Fields, transfer. Obviously, quarterbacks, these high-profile quarterbacks are different than other positions, but it still remains the same. You have to go for talent.
Yeah, I mean, but for those universities, those are high-ranking, high-profile universities when it comes to football. UCLA is not that. We're not getting some of these guys that Joe Burrow went from Ohio State to LSU. We're not getting the former Ohio State backup quarterback to come to UCLA. I mean, we should be able to as a program, but we're not there yet. Chip Kelly should rely on the young guys. Why not? Why not just go young? Really try put them through the fire, man. Hold their feet to the fire. Make them learn through experience. That's what happened to DTR. That's what happened to Josh Rosen. Look how those guys are turning out. They put up some amazing games.
Because those guys were the cream of the crop coming out of high school. They were high profile, highly ranked recruits. You're not going to come out and start a bunch of 3-star freshmen just because you want to develop them. That's not a recipe for winning football. This isn't the NBA where you draft a guy and you want him to play from day one. UCLA did not have a lot of starting freshmen last year. You had Sean Ryan, who was great, but not everyone can be Sean Ryan. Not everyone can be a top-ranked left tackle, come in and be a freshman All-American like Sean Ryan was. Sometimes you look at DTR. You're talking about DTR. Who won the starting quarterback job? Wilton State, because he was more experienced and he made fewer mistakes on the team. And when he got hurt, DTR came in, and yeah, his feet were held with fire, and it showed. That was good development for him. But the Bruins were in the best position to win in 2018 when Wilton State was out there, because you would rather have an experienced player from a Power 5 program, whether or not it's your own, than a freshman.
I'm just saying, look at these past couple of years. Change something. Please go away. We got another question. Why can't UCLA recruit the same level of player as Boise State? No need for transfers if you recruit the right guy the first time. Absolutely right. Boise State's also a completely different program, though. That team has always looked good. They've been consistent. They've had the same methods. They've gotten good coaches that have come up from beneath. When we hire someone like Chip Kelly, we expect success right away because of his coaching pedigree. But he was coming from a failing 49ers job. He had been a year or two out of that, but he was coming from a job where he had just failed. And obviously the NFL is different from the NCAA, but that's still getting someone on their way down, on the downtrend. We should really be looking for guys that are going on an upwards trend if we were looking to replace Chip Kelly. Also, Chip Kelly doesn't have the greatest pedigree as a recruiter.
Yeah, but then again, part of recruiting is getting transferred. So I'd say it's all part of it's talent acquisition. It shouldn't matter where you get them from. Would you like to recruit 5 stars and develop them all 4 years? Yeah, of course you would. But then you look at Boise State, which is still a very good program, but at the height of its power, you had Chris Peterson, who went on to be Washington's coach, and he was so successful there. So I don't know, if you want to look for an up-and-coming young guy from a group of 5 school to be a recruiting head coach for you, sure. But for now, when Chip Kelly's here, you're just going to have to deal with the talent Chip Kelly brings in. And I think it'd be good for him to rely on transfers, especially now when you look and the transfer rules are going to be opened up, wide open. You're not going to be sitting out for a year, depending on what the NCAA decides, but that's definitely where the momentum's going. Transfers are going to be so much more important in college football. You've seen that over the last few years. You go 10 years ago and transfers aren't as important, but now, Heisman winner, all your Heisman candidates were transferred. It's just part of the game now. It's talent acquisition. It doesn't matter if it's a recruiter or a transfer.
Yeah, I think a big thing that would help this out is if the NCAA really standardized the rules for transfers, if they made it not to where you had to appeal every single time if you wanted to be immediately eligible. Many people have done this out, and I'm a big proponent of this, but the NCAA should have a one-time, no questions asked, free transfer for every single player. Why not?
Yeah, going back to Chris Peterson, he wouldn't let any of his players transfer to Pac-12 schools without sitting out a year. That's why Colson Yankoff wasn't eligible this year. Or this past year, and now he will be. So we'll see if he's a backup, but he's definitely a talented guy.
That too. I can't believe that some coaches will let some guys immediately play and some guys not. That's just standardize the rules, please, NCAA. You want to have power, then enforce your power for once. In a good way. Sometimes you enforce your power too much in bad ways.
Well, speaking of changing tides in the NCAA, there's been a change at UCLA athletics since the end of last football season. Dan Guerrero, he was the athletic director for almost 2 decades. UCLA won a lot of championships in Olympic sports, but not a lot of success on the football field. And then in May, they hired Martin Jarmond from Boston College, previously at Ohio State and Michigan State. And now he's at UCLA, and we'll see. He's a young guy. We'll see how he builds for the future. I don't know, Jack. What do you think that Martin Jarmond is going to do to change the culture and the outlook for UCLA football?
I mean, Martin Jarman is a great AD. He has done great. He did great things at Boston College. He did great things when he was an assistant at Ohio State. I think, other than some reservations on how he will work with some of the other Olympic sports, I think he'll do a great job here. Football is going to be his big project. Basketball is looking like it's on the uptrend right now. Football has been struggling the past couple of years. He's going to make a coaching change. And it's unfortunate for Chip Kelly, other than the fact that Chip Kelly's only won 7 games in the past 2 years. But you have to prove it, especially with the new athletics director. Dan Guerrero was here for years, and he gave coaches a couple extra years because he believed in job security. But when you bring a new athletics director in that didn't pick your football coach, they always want to make that big splash and bring in their guy. And I think that's kind of where we're inevitably headed. Even if Chip Kelly has a great year this year, I think if he has a great year this year, he'll stay another year. But after that, it looks really dicey for him.
Yeah, I mean, Jarman is the guy to build this program. Basically from the ground up. The UCLA football has not done much in the past few years, but he can't come out here and fire Chip Kelly just because he's not his guy. And he can't really do it at the end of this year either. There's a lot of financials that are factoring into that. So as much as he would like to come in and make the football program his own, he's going to have to wait. It's a 10-year process. Maybe it's fewer years, fingers crossed for everyone involved. But it could very well be a rest of his career project in building this program back up.
No,
I mean, the good thing is at Boston College, he was there for 3 years, and then 2 years they had Steve Adazio, and he just wasn't cutting it. He had been waiting around for years. Everyone had been begging for him to be fired, but then he'd go 7-5 and make a bowl. And maybe the same thing could happen here with Chip Kelly if he just buys himself a little time. But once the bottom fell out at BC, he made the change, and he went out and hired Jeff Hafley from Ohio State, who he had connections with. That's what I'm looking forward to with Martin Jarman. I don't think he's going to be able to be hands-on enough to change things while Chip Kelly is here. But once the time comes that Kelly is gone, I know Jarman has the connections, the charisma, and the whole package where he can go out and get you a top-tier coach. He did it when he was an assistant AD at Ohio State. He was part of the team that helped bring in Urban Meyer, which then won a championship. So maybe UCLA's ceiling isn't that high, but when you have Jarman with Big Ten connections, with ACC connections at some of the biggest programs in the country, who knows? He can really take you to a lot of places, but you have to wait. It's really a game of patience. It's a waiting game. But it's just a matter of time for Kelly to go, and then Jarman will be in his sweet spot.
How much more patience can UCLA fans really have? It's been a while since we've had a really good program. Even when Josh Rosen was here, our program wasn't amazing. You know, we were playing in those second tier, third tier bowls at best. We're going 6-6 in Josh Rosen's last year. Now we haven't had a winning season under Chip Kelly, and we're just supposed to wait it out. Even if Chip Kelly doesn't win any games, wins 1 game, wins 2 games, wins 3 games, goes under 500 again. If he goes in a 10-game season, if he goes 3-7, he's now got 10 wins over 3 years, and you don't think Jarman can just fire this dude and bring in someone?
You look at Steve Adazio, who Jarman went to Boston College. He didn't have his guy, but he let Adazio go for 3 years. They went 7-5, lost the bowl game. 7-5, their bowl game was canceled because of rain. This year they went 6-6, and they kept him around. I mean,
that's way better though than
it's not out of the question. It's not out of the question if Jarman gives Kelly a bit of a leash. It will run out at some point. I understand. Kelly is not here for the long run based on these first 2 years. But Jarman really, I don't expect him to make a rash decision and rush to fire Chip Kelly for multiple reasons, starting with the financials, but also going a Jarman's track record. He seems very friendly with Chip Kelly on multiple Zoom interviews and press conferences, which of course I know he's going to play that out. He doesn't want to make it seem like anything's wrong, but he seems like an earnest, honest guy, and I think he's going to give Chip Kelly the benefit of the doubt for 2 more years.
No, I completely agree. Every time that Jarman's talked, it's been all the right things. He's said all the right things, done all the right things. That's great and all. But you've come in, you turned this program around. That's why you've been hired. The past couple of years under Dan Guerrero, not been good. You have to do something. UCLA fans do not have patience like they should have. I'll throw a little curveball at you, Sam. If Chip Kelly is fired within 1 to 2 years from now, depending on it, if things go really badly, what are the odds that Urban Meyer is hired at UCLA?
Zero.
Negative
50 to 1. Not going to happen. I mean, he's at USC, which that apparently seemed like a pretty good match. And there were a lot of rumors. They didn't end up firing Clay Helton, but there's still talk. And I don't think that's happening at USC. They've had too many headlines made for the wrong reasons in the past couple of years. And bringing in Urban Meyer with his baggage would make that even worse at USC. So you go to UCLA, and they've also made a lot of bad decisions in the athletic department financially. And with the admission scandal from last year that got men's soccer coach Jorge Salcedo fired, I don't think you can bring in a guy like Urban Meyer, who has shown poor judgment in the past relating to really sensitive issues. I think now is the time to go and hire an Urban Meyer, even if Jarman has past connections with him. Jarman, I hope, has enough self-awareness and like foresight to see that would be horribly received. At this point, Urban Meyer's been away from the game for the second time. He's older. We don't even know how well it would go on the field, let alone.
I'll say this though: he'll recruit guys that Chip Kelly hasn't been able to recruit. That's guaranteed.
Jim Miller recruited guys, and how did that go?
I mean, there were times where it looked pretty good, man. There were some winning seasons in there. That's all I'll say. Well, then who do you think Jarman will hire then? Who would be someone that would be at the top of the candidate list?
Well, I think you have to go to his past, really, to see who the candidates are. He hired Jeff Hafley at Boston College, who had been an acquaintance of at Ohio State before. So I think looking back at Michigan State, Ohio State, Boston College, I think Luke Fickell, the Cincinnati head coach right now, is probably the favorite, or would at least be the best candidate to take over for Chip Kelly when he does get fired. It's next year after. They just have to hope he doesn't get scooped up by someone else, because Cincinnati's coaches always get poached. They always get stolen away by Michigan State or Tennessee, whoever it is. But Luke Fickell is really good. He's an Ohio State product. He was their defensive coordinator before Hafley was. So Jarman has some overlap there, a lot of mutual connections. And Cincinnati these past few years has been a double-digit win program. They've really killed it, and Fickell has been a major reason why. Yeah.
My only problem with Fickell is he is part of that Urban Meyer Ohio State command chain where there were some issues there, not on the field, but off the field, which is a little dicey, but Fickell wasn't in charge of that, at least as far as we know. Fickell's a great choice. I just want an up-and-comer, man. Just give us someone that hasn't been like a proven guy. Don't give us some fired NFL coach or fired Power 5 coach, please, man. Just give us something to be excited about. Someone that's on the upward. Martin Jarman is someone that was looking like he was rising up through the ranks, going from an assistant athletic director at a big school to an athletic director at a smaller school, still a Power 5 school, but a smaller school for sure.
Don't just Boston College, please.
Well, Boston College, great school, but still a smaller school. And then he coming to take over the UCLA job is a big project. And
I don't know. Do you have any candidates?
Man, I can't say names right now. I don't want to get in trouble for saying some names. I'll just say this. Every time I've thought about anyone that I would hire at UCLA for any position, basketball, football, I've always thought, let's get someone to energize the program. Let's just get someone to energize the program. Yes, sometimes they've been bad picks, and Sam knows. But sometimes, like a Mick Cronin, I was so happy when Mick Cronin came in because he was a guy that approved success at Cincinnati.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait a few years to see who the next UCLA head coach is. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Bruin Dash on Dash Sports TV. You can follow us at Dash Sports TV on Twitter, or you can email us You can follow me on Twitter at Sam Connon, or you can follow Jack at Jack C. Perez. Jack, thank you for joining me today again.
Thank you, Sam. Glad to be here as always.